Welcome back to the Deep Digger Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew. My other host right here next to me.
What's up? It's Dee. Good to see you again. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe to the pod. And then be sure to drop some comments below. Just let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, and rather than kind of dig into this Cardinals game that was just a fucking ass kicking for the 49ers, I mean, Debo scored, CMC scored, Ayuk did his thing, Kittle went off, and Brock Purdy looked amazing. I think we could just focus on Brock Purdy's comments after the game, saying that he believes Christian McCaffrey should be the MVP. What are we feeling on that? I know we talked about this year. There's kind of a lack of MVP candidates of quarterbacks who really stood out and were consistent all year. Dak now has fallen off the narrative of being MVP. We're starting to prop up guys like Baker Mayfield, and there's even arguments for Joe Flacco being in the MVP conversation. So what are your thoughts on the NFL kind of refusing to give this to a non-quarterback?
Yeah, and I think even George Kittle went on somewhere to talk about it. And he was saying, like, hey, I love Brock. I think what Brock doing is MVP caliber, but at the same time, you got to give more love to guys like Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is just an all-around dog. He's one of the best receiving running backs. He's obviously the leading rusher in the league. And then he gave a lot of praise to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is about to hit 2,000 yards on the season. He's just a dynamic player, and you can't tell me that he's not the best player on the Miami Dolphins team. But in reality, this is Brock Purdy's to lose. Like, after those comments where he said, hey, I think it should go to Christian McCaffrey. Christian is just, the diamond that we need as far as this offense moving forward. Christian came out and said, like, what the fuck is Brock Purdy talking about? It's Brock's. Like, Brock is the MVP. And so I think that's what it's going to be. I think he has to have a good showing against this Baltimore Ravens team. But, I mean, guys like Jalen Hurts, completely out of it. Dak Prescott, completely out of it. I think that it's going to go to Brock Purdy. I think that we're going to take a step back in a couple of years from now and be like, damn, what a fucking amazing story that Brock Purdy, this, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, not only was he this good, but he also won the NFL MVP. And who's to say that he's not the NFL MVP who takes his team to the Super Bowl and wins it all? Like, it's shaping up to be an awesome story. And I'm totally here for the ride. I get that the non-quarterbacks need a little bit more love in the MVP race, but at the same time, like, let's take this story as what it is. And it's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Brock. I think he's definitely the MVP of the league this year. And whether that's his play it being amazing or the fact that like half the starting quarterbacks are hurt, he's definitely earned it. He's playing the best. He's playing the most consistent out of everyone in the league. I mean, Mahomes isn't in the conversation. You look at all the top names. Lamar kind of fell off for a while. I mean, Hurts has not looked great. They try to, anoint Dak as the guy, but we just know that in primetime, he's not the guy. If he would have had a statement game against the Bills, maybe it would have been him. But I definitely think CMC should be up there in the top three, Tyreek Hill. And I kind of want to throw a dark horse in that race. Do you know McCaffrey is tied for the most touchdowns in the league for non-quarterback at 20? Do you know who he's tied with?
Who?
Raheem Mostert for the
shit.
Dolphins.
Okay.
And so if you're leading the league in touchdowns, I think you should be in that conversation along with McCaffrey. Like, Raheem is fucking balling too. Like, credit where credit's due.
Yeah, but so for those guys, like, they have switched up the format now. They're doing instead it was just you get one vote and that's like you get the one MVP vote. That's it. Now they've switched it to the like almost like the Heisman where it's you rate 1, 2, 3. I'm hearing a lot of talk that Christian McCaffrey could split the vote between Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, and that could cause Brock Purdy to end up losing to a guy like, let's say, Dak Prescott has a bounce back game against a lesser team. Things like that. So those are just things to watch out for because you do have two good players on this team. You could end up splitting the vote amongst voters and neither.
And let's be real. We still do have these media people who will not admit that Brock Purdy's a good quarterback because they're looking at the draft status. Like Nick Wright is continuously off on Brock Purdy's trying to say he's a check down guy. Cam Newton is like he's a game manager.
And I get where Cam was coming. Let's kind of talk into that. Like, I get where Cam was coming from. He said basically like, hey, he came out with another video. And basically the premise was guys aren't looking for Brock Purdy in the draft. They're looking for Josh Allen. They're looking for Lamar Jackson. They're looking for Pat Mahomes. They're not looking for Brock Purdy. And that makes sense. Like, even the 49ers weren't looking for Brock Purdy.
Mhm.
Like, let's be real. They weren't. They waited till the last pick in the draft. If they really wanted him, they would have got him in the 5th, the 6th. But no, they got him. They waited. And they felt like, hey, he's still going to be there. And if we don't get him, that's fine. And that's fine. Like, it's okay. Not everyone can be Cam Newton in their prime. But you got to admit, Brock Purdy's really fucking good. And he's surpassed all the expectations. And so you got to kind of put everything, like the draft status, everything to the back of your mind and look at the play. And what he's doing right now is awesome. And he even put I think he put Peyton Manning in that same category. And so I don't think he's talking about two different things. There's franchise quarterbacks, and then there's like game changing, like, hey, we want to do it. And I think when you look at what he's going for and what he put the whole team on his back, but he was very inconsistent. He was not like a true, I'm going to just slice and dice you. And we've seen guys turn into that, and he just didn't.
Yeah, like Lamar, I think, has turned into a guy who can throw the ball and stand in the pocket.
Oh, he's awesome.
And like, I think it's just a thing of the narrative and the perception that Brock isn't a game changer. Like, he's a game manager. How many plays have we seen this season where he rolls out of the pocket and extends the plays and throws a crazy touchdown pass? And we've seen that his whole career already. Like, last year, he was doing crazy stuff on the sideline, waiting the last possible second, flipping his hips and throwing something Ayuk in the end zone. Like, there was that play that didn't count last year where he kind of throws a crazy ball, and everyone was like, oh my God, he would have broke the internet if he completed this pass.
Yeah. But
I think it's just that he's a small guy. He was drafted last, and people don't want to admit, like, he is a game changer. He's a game manager who has the ability to be a game changer, which is exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants. He doesn't want someone who's just boom or bust.
Yeah.
He wants someone to run that offense perfectly, and then when Kyle can't think of like, oh, when this breaks down, we want to do this, you need to be able to innovate on your feet and make those plays. And that's what Brock Purdy can do.
Yeah, and he's a guy who, like, very humble, but also, like, once he gets on that field, his play is very cocky. Like, he's like, I can make all these throws. I can outrun this defensive end and then full speed, make a stop and make the throw. And those are things that you want if you are Kyle Shanahan. You want a guy who can take the playbook and then enhance it. And I think Kyle, CMC, Deebo Samuel has even come out and said, like, this guy makes us so much better. Charvarius Ward came out and did an interview with Eric Armstead and said, hey, in the past, when we played you guys in the Super Bowl, we were trying to get the ball in Jimmy's hands. Defenses aren't saying that against Brock Purdy. They're like, holy shit, what do we do? How can we handle this guy? And so that's the difference.
Yeah, and to say, oh, he's a game manager, he's just checking it down. It's all the yak.
Any quarterback would look better in this, or any quarterback.
We saw Jimmy G run this offense for years, and it never looked this good. And he never ran it to the extent that Brock Purdy's running it. And yeah, like you said, people didn't fear Jimmy Garoppolo in this offense. People are trying to figure out how the fuck can we stop Brock Purdy, and they just can't do it. I think it's going to be a great story if he wins MVP, and I don't know why the NFL isn't kind of embracing it more when they're kind of like trying to shy away from Brock. I feel like they're trying to find different narratives to give it to a more mainstream name, or maybe a team that does have that star quarterback who's like the sole guy and not one of the guys.
Yeah, they would have loved if Dak Prescott had won that game against the Bills. They would have loved that, but it didn't happen. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And so, yeah, I think it is Brock Purdy's to lose. I think if he balls out against this Ravens team that is a tough out, I think it's his.
And we don't want to hear the argument that Brock Purdy is just a yak user. He just uses
merchant.
He actually has a lower percentage than the last like 3 MVP winners of yak. So, I mean, people have done deep dives into the numbers. We're not going to get into the numbers. Go fucking YouTube it, Google it. He doesn't have that much more yak or short throws than Patrick Mahomes last year.
He's leading pretty much every category in passing.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're getting to the point where you're like the ringer nerds are over there just digging into like, oh, well, this was, well, actually, and it's like, shut up.
Yeah, when we
Go
have
outside
to
and touch
like
some fucking grass.
pull up, oh well, throws between 4 and 7 yards is actually like just look at the eye test. He's leading the league in touchdowns. He looks amazing. The team's gonna get the 1 seed. End of story. He should be MVP. I think that's it. But let us know in the comments who do you think even could compete for the MVP right now if it's not Brock Purdy or CMC or maybe Tyreek Hill.
Be sure to hit that like button, drop some comments, let us know what you're watching, and then also hit subscribe. Come on. Later.